This week on True Crime Travelers, today's case involves a Tantra sex cult, a paradise island, a fire, a dead girl from Belgium, and giant lizards that not only helped discover the crime, but also helped cover up the crime. This is the most mysterious unsolved case we have ever covered. So there's this island in Thailand called Murder Island. That's obviously not its official name, right? But it got this name because of the dozens of deaths that have happened between 2014 and 2024 under very suspicious circumstances. When I say suspicious, I'm talking about people committing suicide with their hands tied behind their back, like cases that don't really make any sense. And to top it all off, people are scared to talk about the deaths that happen on this island, Murder Island. And even I am a little scared to talk about these cases.
Dude, we write about this place, don't we? Like, even I'm scared to talk about this.
We do. We write about this island. This island is Koh Tao in Thailand. And Emmy and I have been covering this case for how long now, Emmy?
Oh my God. I mean, at least over a year because it's the time we have been working on this podcast. But
Right.
longer than that.
Longer than that, we have been covering this case for about a year and we still don't have answers. But Emmy, guess what? I actually have new details for you.
Oh my God.
Since the last time we've talked about this, I have new details that will blow your mind, and we have a lot of investigating to do today. So let me just get into it. Let me tell the people about Murder Island, aka Koh Tao, Thailand. This island is one of the most beautiful islands in the world. White sand beaches, beautiful turquoise water, some of the best scuba diving in the world, lovely local people, amazing food. It's the kind of place where you get off a boat and you take your shoes off right away and you just go into like vacation mode. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite places in the world, actually. And I just got back from Koh Tao and I went there to see, like, is this place really still dangerous? Because we write the Solo Girls Travel Guide to Thailand. Our book is one of the best sellers. It just came up as the bestseller in Bangkok travel guides this week, actually, Emmy. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, me too. So we send girls to this island in Thailand, but I stopped sending them there for quite a while because I was like, I can't with good conscience be the person that's in charge of these girls' safety and send them there. But I just went back to the island. I talked to like locals in tourism and everyone seems like, hey, everything's going fine. We haven't had a death here in a while. Everything's fine. And then we have another death in 2024. So I don't know what to make of this island.
Okay, so back to the case. What is this crazy story?
Okay, so we are going back to 2017. This is the case of Elise Dallemagne, a 30-year-old backpacker from Belgium.
You always pronounce her name like an Italian. It's Dallemagne because she's Belgian, isn't she?
Yeah.
So it's French.
Dallemagne.
No, Dallemagne.
Dallemagne. Okay, I'm going to call her Elise from now on so I don't just like butcher her name. So let me tell you guys about Elise, okay? After completing a degree in holistic medicine, she wanted to re-find herself, as many people do after all these studies, right? So she went backpacking. She backpacked around Australia and New Zealand and Asia. And backpacking Southeast Asia is super cheap. You can extend your travels very easily, especially in Southeast Asia. And her favorite place was Thailand, specifically, but not Koh Tao, an island called Koh Phangan in Thailand. You see, in the Gulf of Thailand, there's these three islands. There's Koh Samui, the big island. We have Koh Phangan, the full moon island that is known for a lot of holistic retreats and cults. And then we have Koh Tao on the top, which is known for scuba diving. It's really tiny. It's beautiful, but it's also known for all these deaths. Elise, you guys, was not on Koh Tao. She was not on Murder Island yet. She instead was on Koh Phangan. And the thing that drew her to Koh Phangan was a Tantra sex cult. I am not kidding.
How did she end up there?
Okay, so this is a new fact. So she was backpacking Southeast Asia, and she did her yoga training, and then she left. And while she was outside of Thailand, I mean, she started communicating with these cult members and they like invited her. So when she went back to Koh Phangan, it was to go to this cult. Okay. That's not something that we've talked about before. I thought she had just stumbled upon it and it just kind of happened over time. But no, it turns out Elise, who loved holistic medicine, she thought of herself as a healer. And by all accounts, she was a healer. She liked the draw of this. And the cult that she went to is a sect of the Santia Sai Baba cult. And let me tell you about this cult real quick. Now, this cult, the leader is Santia Sai Baba. He passed away in 2011, but he is the basis to which this cult is built upon. He sees himself as this like omnipresent teleportation. He can save lives. He was born from a virgin mother. This is this kind of guy, like a con artist. He dies in 2011. And there's all these sects of Santia Sai Baba all around the world. And this one in Thailand was called Sacred. And it was run by a German guru named Ramon Andreas. And Emmy and Em, I'm going to send you that photo of Ramon Andreas. Okay, tell me what you're seeing.
I'm seeing this white dude with a long beard, long hair, long white flowy robes, beaded necklace around his neck, sitting on a kind of like a cushion, like, and he looks like he's looking at an audience, you know, like he's speaking on a stage. But his clothes, his hair, everything, he looks like the literal cliche of a Western guru.
Like if that guy walked into the room, you'd be like, he's a cult leader.
He's the way the Simpsons would draw a cult leader.
Dude, you nailed it. He's the way the Simpsons would draw. So now we have Ramon Andreas, who is running this sacred sect of Santia Sai Baba in Koh Phangan, Thailand. And it is a Tantra retreat. And I don't know why, but like for the past year, exploring this case, it never really occurred to me to break down what happens in a Tantra retreat. But there is this insane Vice documentary that I will link below. And they go to Koh Phangan and they go into these Tantra retreats. And it's really creepy. It's like, first of all, it's not all just sex, but it's a lot of sex. It's a lot of sex. You are free and you're like intertwined with people and doing like weird breathing and touching. And, you know, with that comes power. Power comes from a Tantra retreat. Like someone can gain power over another person very easily when you let your body and your mind become theirs, right?
Yeah,
you love cults, Emmy.
I love cult stories. And yeah, I think in that healing yoga space, there have been so many stories, like power abuse stories where gurus or teachers are taking advantage of students that, yeah, it sounds like this story is one of those.
Right. And I could see why Elise, with a pure mind and a pure heart, might be open to this. She is a holistic healer. And there is some kind of Tantra healing that I personally would not involve myself in. I just don't want that. But I know that I have friends that are okay with that. And I'm not saying it's bad or good, but it's not for me. But it was for Elise in her holistic journey. So Elise, she went there determined to be part of this holistic Tantra cult. Okay. In 2017, the only visa that you could get to stay in Thailand was max like 2 months, maybe 3 if you're really extending. Okay. So in my mind, Elise was probably only there for like 2-3 months, but no, she was doing visa runs, which is what I did for like the 8 years that I lived in Asia. I am no stranger to visa runs. Visa run is basically, hey, my visa is running out. I'm going to take my passport. I'm going to hop over to Malaysia. I'm going to have a day of just eating and drinking. I'm going to go to the embassy, get a new Thai stamp or visa and go back. So she was doing visa runs because Emmy, she was there with Ramon Andreas and the cult for a year.
For a year?
Did you know? A year.
No, I thought she was there for like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months tops.
Me too. So she was there for a year. She was studying very closely with Ramon Andreas M. So when you're in a Tantra cult, you're studying very closely, you're meditating, you're praying, you're doing all these things. You are becoming very intertwined. So everyone remember that as we carry on with this story. So after this year of living at the ashram, for one reason or another, Elise announces that she's going to return home to Belgium. Now, Elise tells the people at the cult, I'm just going to go home and make some money, and then I'll be right back, okay? But as this story gets crazy, I doubt that's actually what happened. On April 17th, 2017, Elise is in Koh Phangan, Thailand. She Skypes her mom, and her mom's name is Michelle. Her and her mom are close. They don't talk every single day because in Thailand, you just don't do that. You're kind of like ingrained in your lifestyle. They didn't talk every single day, but they talked often enough. She tells her mom, hey, mom, I'm coming home. In 2 days, I'm going to get on a boat and I'm going to go to the mainland. And then I'm going to go to Bangkok and get on a flight and come home. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So that's exactly what happens. On April 19th, Elise gets on the boat from Koh Phangan, departing, heading to the mainland. But this is a very big but, and this is like where our entire story centers around. This boat, before it heads to the mainland, it goes from Koh Phangan and it goes to Koh Tao to drop off other travelers and to pick up other travelers headed to Champan. Champan is on the mainland. When you get off the boat, I literally just did this trip for the millionth time. You get off the boat and then there's buses right there and you get on a bus and the bus takes you 6 hours up to Bangkok and then you're there. It's really easy. But that is not what happened. Elise did not go to Champan. Instead, Elise did something that puzzles everyone to this day, and this is why we're here. Elise unexpectedly got off the boat to Koh Tao. And unfortunately, Elise would never make it to the mainland. And we are going to get into those details right after this break.
Okay, this is what we know so far. On April 19th, Elise, our Belgian backpacker, who was supposed to go from Koh Phangan to Champan, the mainland, somehow decides to get off the ferry boat in Koh Tao, right?
Right. And this is what she does next. And you guys, I know this island so well, so I'm excited to explain it to you because I have listened to so many podcasts and news over the years that they don't get this right. They don't get it. Okay. She walks to a resort, a small little, it's not even a resort, it's a hotel. She walks to Triple B Bungalows, where she shows up and she asks for the cheapest room possible, which is totally normal. I would do that all the time. I would get dropped off somewhere and I'd walk and I would ask for the cheapest room.
Wait, you've actually stayed there, right? The Triple B Bungalows.
I know Triple B Bungalows. I have stayed at Triple B Bungalows. They are cheap. They are nothing to write home about. Just really simple little bungalows. And they're near a pier called Mayhad Pier. And Mayhad Pier is where all the boats come and go. And it's also on the way to Sairi Beach. Sairi Beach is paradise. It's this long, beautiful stretch of beach that it makes this bay. And it's where all these hotels are and restaurants and the backpackers. But it's also where all the deaths usually are too. So she checks into Triple B Bungalows. And this is where our second huge mystery comes in. Because when she checks in, this is very standard in Thailand and in Asia and in Europe.
Dude, everywhere around the world.
Everywhere. The hotel is like, okay, here's this piece of paper. Please write down your name, your passport number, and what country you're from. Elise writes down Elise Dallemagne. And then she scribbles it out and she writes Elise Dupuis.
And that name is not even related to anything in her life, right?
No, it's not like a mother's maiden name. From all accounts, this is a completely random name. So question number 1, why is Elise writing down a completely random name? Weird thing number 3, she refuses to disclose her passport number. You guys, it's the easiest thing. You go in, you put your name, put the date, put your passport number. She had been traveling for years by this point. This is standard protocol. She doesn't want to write her passport number down. Just remember these clues. We're going to talk about them when we play detective at the end of this case. She checks in. Then, around 7 p.m., just after the sun had set, there was a fire at Triple B Bungalows. A fire that burned down 3 bungalows, including Elise's bungalow. And there are reports that the fire started inside Elise's bungalow. To this day, we don't really know. All we know is that Elise then did something very, very strange. Elise was seen running from the bungalows, like getting the hell out of there. And what she does next is so confusing because she's near Mayhead Pier. She's near Syrie Beach. There are literally dozens of hotels, cheap hotels for her to choose from next to her. Okay. And she has a boat ticket for the next day. Okay. So she had gotten off the boat. She had gotten another boat ticket, apparently. She has a boat ticket for the next day. The best case for her would be to go take her stuff to another hotel. I'm going to talk about her stuff later too, Emmy, by the way. Mm-hmm. Take her stuff to another hotel, sleep, get on the boat in the morning. That is not what Elise does. Instead, Elise walks 2.5 kilometers, which I have no idea how many that is in miles. So she walks, and I know that that is an hour walk, 1 hour walk. The sun had set. She chooses to walk 1 hour to the other side.
On a hilly road.
Yeah, you guys, Koh Tao is really mountainous. Pro tip for Koh Tao, when you go to this island, do not, whatever you do not rent a motorbike. When you go to Koh Tao, you'll see people walking around like mummies, just wrapped with all this gauze because they took their motorbike. They tried to drive the really hilly, mountainous island of Koh Tao, and it didn't work out for them. So she is doing this. She's walking up these hills, big curves. It's nighttime. I don't get it. I don't get it. So she checks into a hotel called Hotel Poseidon. Now, here's the confusing part about that. Hotel Poseidon is beachfront. It is nicer. It is more expensive. It's more secluded. And Elise is at the end of her trip, and she said she had to go home to make more money. Why, then, would she check into a more expensive hotel in the middle of the night?
On the other side of the island.
And Emmy, she skipped that boat ticket, and that boat ticket costs money. So she's just kind of throwing away money now, which tells me maybe she wasn't on a budget. Maybe that's not why she left the island.
Wait, Lexi, back up 1 second. I guess this means that she wasn't in a hurry to go back to Bangkok yet. Like, then. Did she have a flight back home already?
Okay, right. Good question. So when she gets to this new hotel, she does two things. One, she books a new boat ticket for April 21st to leave Koh Tao and head to Chumphon. Reports say that that boat was supposed to leave on April 24th. But unfortunately, Elise would never make it on that boat. And she would never make it on that flight home. Because 3 days after she was supposed to leave, on April 27th, the locals, they start noticing these really big lizards. They keep going back and forth into the jungle. And in Thailand, these lizards, they're called monitor lizards. They look like Komodo dragons, basically. And so the locals, they decide to follow the lizards into the jungle. And what they find is horrendous. In the jungles of Thailand, they find Elise's half-eaten body, only identifiable by her dental records. What happened to Elise in the jungle, and how did she end up there? How did this young, happy backpacker on the trip of a lifetime wind up dead in paradise? We're going to jump into the details of the crime scene, or at least what we know, after this break. Locals have just found Elise's body decomposing in the jungle. And of course, no one knows it's Elise immediately, because here's the state of her body. And here are the clues that we have. Her body is naked, except for these cotton shawls wrapped around her. She's wrapped in cotton shawls. And there are reports that there is a nylon cord, kind of the cords that you would use to tie up a boat, also in the area. And some reports say around her neck, but many reports say not around her neck. I personally believe that not around her neck. And there is an empty fuel canister next to her body.
Is that implying that she started the fire back at Triple B Bungalows?
Exactly. That's what police are saying. Police are saying this is clearly a suicide. These ropes, she hung herself. And the fire, it's an admission of guilt. So the police immediately rule Elise's death a suicide. But according to police, they say there was no struggle, no signs of struggle. And apparently, the director of the Institute of Forensic Science at Police General Hospital in Bangkok said that there were wounds around her neck due to hanging and some non-fatal bruises on the head. No drugs found in the body. So they're saying she hung herself, maybe the body fell down, maybe because it was decomposing, then it fell down and she hit her head and she killed herself. Okay, fine. Show us the photos. Just show us the photos of the crime scene, because that's pretty normal to take photos of a crime scene, especially in Thailand, you guys. There used to be this website called Pharong Deaths, and Pharong, or like Phalang, that means foreigner in Thai. And there's this website called Pharong Deaths. And me being like the criminologist mind and this death obsessed person, I was obsessed with this website. And you would have photos of dead bodies blurred out on the website. And these photos were so plentiful because it's just part of Thai culture almost to be taking photos of dead bodies and sharing them around. Do you remember that one time our driver sent one of our employees a photo of his dead uncle?
Yeah. I think in Asia,
Right?
they have such a very different relationship with death than we have in the West.
Absolutely. So for us, taking a photo of a dead body is really disrespectful. But in cultures where they believe in reincarnation, a body is just a vessel, right? So photos, I cannot stress to you guys how common it is to have photos of a dead body or a crime scene, especially in Thailand where they don't rope it off immediately. So the fact that there's no photos, and Elise's mother, Michelle, has been asking for photos, but there's no photos, which says to me that this is very suspicious. Because if there was a photo, Emmy, we could see, okay, yeah, the rope, the thing, and the police could come out and be like, it was a suicide, and they could be totally transparent, but they weren't. I don't buy it. I do not buy that this is a suicide. The family of Elise does not buy it. And Emmy?
I don't buy it either.
Right. So let's break this down. I am dying to break this down. Let's get into detective mode. Elise was this vivacious woman who had done all these studies on holistic medicine and yoga, and no one that knew her said that she would commit suicide. She was so happy and full of life. I will put a photo of her on truecrimetravelers.com on the blog of this episode, so you can just see the smile in her eyes. Even her smile goes to her eyes, right, Em?
Yeah, she has the most radiant smile.
And statistically, women don't hang themselves for suicide. Statistically, women take pills. So if we're to believe the police, Elise was depressed or something. She stripped off all her clothes. She got these like old t-shirts or like cotton shawls, wrapped them around her body. She stole a nylon cord from a fisherman. She grabbed a fuel canister from a fishing boat that they maybe used for gasoline. And then she walked into the jungle and she hung herself. Does that make sense to anyone?
No. And you know what? Exhibit B, women tend to leave suicide notes. She did not leave a suicide note.
And someone who was so in touch with her own emotions and really close to her family and friends, you would think that Elise would have left a suicide note. But there was no suicide note left near her body, not in the room that she was staying. There was also no evidence of any kind of fire starters besides this random gasoline can next to her empty. There also was no rope found in her hotel room. This was just a rope found near her body. Some people say around her neck. There's no evidence of that, so I'm not going to hold on to that one. And what about an autopsy? Her body was taken to Surat Thani Hospital. And fun fact, I used to live in Surat Thani town. Was taken to Surat Thani Hospital. But Elise's mother, she kept trying to get her hands on an autopsy. And they just wouldn't give it to her. They kept delaying. So her mom came to Thailand to search for clues. And during this search for clues, now, Emmy, I have saved the craziest plot twist for last. One that makes absolutely no sense and will break your brain. So take a sip of your mezcal, mija. Take a little sip of your alcohol.
In my defense, it's 7 p.m. here, so. Don't judge me, people.
Emmy's in Spain. If you guys don't know that, I'm in Seattle. Emmy's in Spain, if you don't know. You can follow us on Instagram at Solo Girls Travel Guide and at Hello Amelia. I'll put down below. You can follow Emmy's Spanish adventures. When Elise's mom came to investigate, she couldn't find Elise's bags. They were not at the hotel. Instead, Elise's bags were on the mainland. And Emmy, they had been locked up at the pier since Elise disappeared.
What? Like locked up like in a locker or something?
Yes.
No. How?
Yes.
Why?
Okay. Let's break this down. If you have backpacked Thailand and you have been on one of these boats, you know how it works with luggage and tickets, okay? This is how it works. You get on this big boat, and if you have a backpack, like a backpacker's backpack, you might keep it with you. But if you have a rolly suitcase, you'll hand it to the guy that works on the boat, and he'll take your big box of shame that he now has to carry over his head because you chose to have a suitcase with wheels on an island, and he'll put it in a pile for you. And sometimes if your backpack is big enough and you don't want to carry it, you can chuck your backpack in that pile and they'll do the same. And then when it's time to get off the boat, they'll chuck all your bags onto the pier. And then you collect your bag and you go on your merry way.
But if it makes more than one stop, how do they know when and where to take your bags off?
So if it has more than one stop, they'll usually look at your ticket and they'll tag your bag. So maybe all the blue bags get off at Koh Tao and all the green bags get off at Chumpan, okay? Her bags were not marked to get off the boat at Koh Tao, which tells us that she was not planning to get off the boat in Koh Tao, or was she? Here's what I think happened. There's two ways that her bags carried on to Chumpan and she did not. There's two ways. Number one, she planned this the whole time. This leads us to believe that maybe someone was following her. Maybe she wanted to get them off her trail. So she kept her bags on the boat, let her bags go to the mainland, and then she got off the boat in Koh Tao. Maybe that was the plan. Theory number two, what if, Emmy, what if she was on the boat and she was planning to go to Chumpan? What if she saw someone on the boat that scared her? What if she was like, oh God, I gotta get off the boat. I gotta get off the boat. I don't even have time to think about my bags. I gotta get off the boat. What if she saw someone who scared her?
That is a possibility.
And then, yeah. But then, Emmy, this means that she was on Koh Tao for nearly a week with no luggage?
That's a really good point.
So now we're thinking that this has something to do with the cult. Now we're thinking, why did she need to leave? Who was she running from? Did someone follow her? And did that person kill her? So that brings us to the big question. Did she really want to leave the cult because she needed to make more money? Or is that what she was saying so she could make a smooth escape? Was someone following her? Did someone follow her on the boat? Did they follow her onto Koh Tao? Did they chase her into the jungles and kill her on this island? Well, these are the questions that her mother had. She went back to Koh Phangan and Koh Tao, but she went to Koh Phangan to get answers from the leader of the sacred sect, Ramon Andreas. Ramon Andreas, remember, is the leader of this cult that she had spent a year with, and they were very close. So if my dear friend died on another island and her mother was coming, I would make sure that I was there. I would make sure that I could meet with her. But surprise, surprise, Ramon Andreas was nowhere to be found. He conveniently went on a visa run right at that time. And during that visa run, I do believe that he, instead of like leaving the country for a night, he left the country for like 2 years before he came back to Thailand.
Yeah, I think he fled to Sri Lanka.
Her mother said to Cosmopolitan, I cannot accept why my daughter should have killed herself. No signs of depression. But then the police say no signs of murder.
I think like here, like in my brain, what I'm thinking is like depression, like sure, depression can be such a silent killer. Like someone can be struggling and you have no idea. But I think there are so many weird things around this case that completely rule out suicide for me. For me, the whole it was a suicide thing, it's a very convenient conclusion.
It is. And it's a convenient conclusion, and a conclusion that the government and the island has to have, because Koh Tao is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country for them. And a murder, it doesn't look good. And there had already been, by 2017, a handful of murders on the island. So when this murder came up, they were like, okay, brush it under the rug, get rid of it as quick as you can. Yeah. And that, you guys, is one of the reasons why we do this podcast, True Crime Travelers, because it is so hard as a family member or as anyone that wants to investigate a case to get through language barriers, distance, red tape, governments that don't function like ours do. So in this case, they were like, we're just going to sweep it away, sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, it's
no
just
big
one
deal.
more case in the news. Phew.
Now, here is why this murder is different. All of the other murders on the island are presumed to be by this gang, this Thai gang who's killing tourists, which we will cover in other episodes on True Crime Travelers. So my thought when I first brought this case to Emmy, my thought was like, yeah, maybe Elise was like another victim of these, serial killer gang members. But you blew my mind, Em.
I think that this case is 100% related to the cult. I have a theory on the way that Elise died on Koh Tao. I think that it's too much of a coincidence that she was coming from a sketchy environment. She was coming from this cult related to the Satya Sai Baba bigger cult that has already had a lot of weird and sketchy news around it. I think that she found some dirt, or that she found some weird things happening there. And that's where she was leaving. And yeah, obviously they were like, nope, that cannot get out. And how convenient that your neighboring island already has this murder island reputation. I think somehow they got Elise to go from Koh Phangan to Koh Tao, and that's where they got her.
It literally blows my mind how you broke this down, because it's not just like, oh, the cult got her. It's how did they get her if this is what happened?
I think it's just really convenient. Like, already has a sketchy reputation. It's really easy to make, like, it's like if you do something wrong in class and there's a troublemaker already, so you're like, oh, I'm gonna blame it on him. And it would have been really easy for them to like, oh, we're gonna we're gonna kill her there. And then it's just gonna be like brushed under the rug as one more case. Like, police over there is just going to cover it up.
It's genius. It's brilliant. And let's go a step further. What if this cult paid off someone on the island to help them kill her? Because when you first brought this to me, I was like, what? So you think like Ramon Andreas is just like floating around the island with his long beard and his white robes? And you were like,
oh no, he's not gonna splatter his white poor Rose's blood. Of course, like a leader like that, like they have people who do everything for them, like they're expert at manipulating people. So yeah.
Right. These aren't just normal people that Elise was dealing with. She is dealing with people who master in the art of manipulation and planning.
That's why they're cults.
That's why they're cults. Literally, the only thing they do is plan and manipulate for their own benefit. So the strongest theory that we have here on how Elise died in Thailand is that she was fleeing this Tantra sex cult because there was some secret that she knew, or some dirt, or maybe there was some love triangle. Whatever it was, Elise was leaving the island out of fear. And when she got on that boat, I believe that almost like herding sheep, someone knew how to get her off onto Koh Tao into the palm of paradise where murders happen all the time. This was predestined in the eyes of the cult.
And you know what? Who's to say that the cult didn't pay the police to cover it up? Like, oh,
I agree.
There's no autopsy. Oh, conveniently, there were no photos. And you know what? It's not over. I have a huge update for you. I found this video accidentally scrolling on social media. I see this video of this guru guy all over this 13-year-old boy and like this group of white people in robes, kind of like chanting and kind of like
it's like a cult video that you found on the internet.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, this guy looks familiar. And I was like, oh shit, this is Ramon Andreas. So, and I literally traced back this video to a news clip from India, an India like news broadcast. And the thing is, Satya Sai Baba, that original like guy who this cult revolved around, he died. But now there's this 13-year-old kid who they believe is the incarnation, the new incarnation of that god. So the cult continues around a 13-year-old kid, and Raman Andreas is still at the front and center of this cult. And now he's like creepily close to this 13-year-old boy who they believe is a deity.
And when you found this video, you found it and you were looking at it and you're like, oh shit, is this? And you sent it to me. And right?
Yeah.
Is that how that happened?
Yeah,
like
I sent you a screenshot of the video, like zoomed into like Raman Andreas's face, and a photo of like from the Elise case. Like they were like on the side, like the profile. And it's like, I was like, dude, this is the
side by side.
I did a side by side.
You did some real detective work.
I promise I'm gonna post this side by side on the blog too, truecrimetravelers.com, because I was like, oh my god, this is the same dude, and like no one had really like seen or heard much from him since like the Elise case happened. He has been very MIA, very like red. So
how crazy is it though that people have not really heard from him? He's kept a very low profile since the Elise case. How crazy is it, Emmy, that a video comes across your feed and you're able to put that together and figure out that's Raman Andreas? And the fact that they have this new guru that's a 13-year-old boy, these people are creepy as hell.
I also like research, hey, anyone talked about this? It's like, no one is talking about this anymore. So here we are talking about it.
Here we go. And this is like the Shanquilla Robinson case or the Tu Zhejiang case. Like there are cases that people just stop talking about. And the problem with that is that the things that put these people in danger are continuing to put other people in danger. So we can't just like stop talking about these things. Now that the outrage is real, what do we learn from these cases? Like what is the travel lesson from this case? I can think of a few things on the top of my head, but what do you think?
For me,
what would you tell someone?
Like first and foremost, trust your gut and your intuition always. Because when you get wrapped up with people like this, like in a cult or like in the healing space, it's very easy to cross a line. So whenever something feels off for you, listen to that voice inside your like literally your gut and your brain, and also talk to a friend who knows you really well, because sometimes you will need like an outside perspective that tells you like, dude, that's weird, or like, dude, that's creepy. So
that's what you do for me.
Yeah.
Is talk to someone and follow your intuition. And so Elise did half of these things. She was following her intuition by leaving. I am convinced that she was leaving because she was afraid, but she didn't tell her mom.
Yeah.
She didn't speak this to her mother. Maybe she didn't want to freak her mom out. Like you and I will be traveling and you'll say to me, like, if we're in a bad situation, you'd be like, I'm not telling my mom. And for me, I don't have that kind of relationship with my mom. So I don't think about like, I can't tell her this thing.
Well, my mom is going to know now because she listens to this podcast like religiously. So
we keep secrets sometimes, Mom, but it's for your own good. But that's probably what Elise thought too. She's just like, I don't want to tell my mom. But if you're in danger and it's ongoing danger, you should tell someone you're in ongoing danger.
Tell your sister, a brother, a friend, like someone who can give you outside perspective, especially if you're like feeling something weird, like maybe you're being convinced into something that you're not sure of. Talk to someone who knows you well.
And at least they can help solve your murder.
Yeah.
If it happens.
At the very least.
And we're not trying to like shame and blame anyone on this podcast ever.
No.
You guys know that our motto is we're not here to scare you. We're here to prepare you. And if we can take away lessons from these really sad stories, then there is a tiny silver lining.
Yeah.
My takeaway lesson from this is literally the reason why Emmy and I share locations with each other, is always share your location with someone. So we are sharing on 2 apps. Last night, I went on the app 360, which is the app that I recommend that you guys use. It is a location sharing app, and it can get really detailed. It will keep kind of like the trail, like your trail for a couple days. So share that only with people you trust. But I went on last night, Emmy, to check your location, and it's off. Why is your location off?
I don't know. I realized this morning that was I think I at some point kind of like turned off my location. I don't know, some update on my phone. So I went in this morning. I was like, oh, that's right. Like it's not on. So I turned it back on.
But if something happens to you, I want to be the one to solve your murder.
Yeah.
So can you turn it back on?
It is on already.
It's okay though, because we also share in our Google Maps location sharing.
Yeah.
We share 24/7.
Yeah, actually this morning on Instagram and TikTok, we shared a few travel safety apps that are gonna give you and your loved ones and your parents a lot of peace of mind when you're traveling. So go check them out.
You did do that today. What perfect timing. We're always sharing safety stuff on TikTok, on Instagram, on the blog, on YouTube,
On
everywhere.
this podcast.
That's all we're doing is just on this podcast. We'll add that to the blog at truecrimetravelers.com. You guys can go through all of the past cases that we've done and all of the travel lessons that we've done. But before I leave you, because this case is so grim and scary and heartbreaking, I want to remind you that these cases are so shocking because they're so rare. Do not let this stop you from traveling. And remember that if a story scares you, that story will stay with you. And now you are less likely to become a victim of someone or of circumstance because you have that alarm. You have that like alert on already. So just by listening to this podcast, you are less likely to become a victim. We don't have any stats to prove it, but I believe it, right?
Yeah.
You are now more prepared to travel than anyone who hasn't listened to this podcast. So if you know a traveler in your world, send them this episode. Help them become a safer, wiser traveler like you. If you want to meet other travelers like you, join either our Facebook group, Solo Girls Travel, where we discuss the cases, or join us on Reddit. We started a Reddit subreddit. It's our Solo Girls Travel Guide, and it's not our True Crime Travelers because that thing got banned like 3 times. So we have a Solo Girls Travel Guide subreddit where all we talk about is murder and crime of travelers abroad. And if you want to come discuss these cases after this podcast, head over to our subreddit. We're there. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Last question is, where are we going next week?
Next week, Mija, we are going to Bocas del Toro, Panama.
Interesting. I've never heard of that place.
You haven't? Okay, I'm excited
No.
to show you. Woohoo. Okay, love you, Em, and I will see you next week. But I'll also text you when we get off this podcast.
Okay, everyone. Travel safe.
Travel safe. Bye.
Bye.